The market priced in 500 Boeing jets. It got 200. And in 2 days, Boeing stock dropped from $240.60 on Wednesday to $220.49 on Friday. That's roughly a $20 a share, 8.5% gone in 48 hours. Not on a bad earnings report, not on a regulatory action, on a number being smaller than the number the crowd had imagined. President Trump flew home from Beijing on Friday after 2 days with Xi Jinping. He brought back what looks like a partial trade truce, a hundreds of billions investment number that nobody on either side has actually confirmed in detail, an oil purchase commitment that the Chinese official meeting readout did not even mention, and one specific figure that did get into the print, 200 Boeing aircraft, the first Chinese order from Boeing in almost a decade, if it actually happens. A real number on a real piece of paper that came in less than half of what Wall Street had penciled in. And the most American thing about this whole story is the same trip produced a completely opposite reaction in a different stock. Nvidia, ticker NVDA, ran from $215 on Sunday up to $235 at the Thursday close on the pure hope that Jensen Huang flying to Beijing on the president's plane meant the chip deal was coming. But the chip deal didn't come. There's no announcement, no signed paper, no Nvidia advanced AI hardware moving into China. And Nvidia gave back $10 on Friday, round trip on a story. Two of the most famous companies in America, same trip, same president, opposite take. And what every viewer of this channel needs to understand this morning is that neither of those moves was actually about the company. Neither one was about Boeing's order or Nvidia's product roadmap. Both moves were about the spread between what the market had imagined and what the meeting actually produced. That spread is where the money is made. That spread is where the money is lost. And right now, my system is sitting on the sidelines of all of it for reasons I'm going to explain. Welcome to Invest AI Savvy, where AI powers smart investing. Welcome to Saturday, May 16th, 2026. For anyone landing on this channel for the first time, a quick word about me. I'm not a working trader. I've got an MBA in finance from Pepperdine. I worked as a financial advisor with a Series 7 for several years, and I spent several years in B2B sales and AI automation. And at some point, I got curious about whether artificial intelligence could find market signals that most people miss. So I had the AI build me a system to test that. I don't personally write the code. I designed it. I run it in public on this channel every week, every day. And when it wins, you see it. And when it loses, you see that too. Nothing gets cleaned up before it reaches you. This is where the data is. Now, here's something interesting about this past week. The two stocks I just walked through, Boeing and Nvidia, are exactly the kind of names that should have been the center of attention all week. Headline-driven, presidential trip adjacent, billion-dollar narrative on both sides. And yet, my BuzzPulse system that I built to scan 57,700 stocks looking for convergence didn't advance either one as a signal of the day. Not on Tuesday, not on Wednesday, not on Thursday, and not Friday. This isn't a bug. This is the system telling me something I want to share with you. Now, quick housekeeping before we go any further. This show is for educational purposes only and is not investment advice. Before investing, do your own research, consult a licensed professional, and don't make any trades just based on what I'm telling you. Okay. Now, where were we? The reason BuzzPulse did not put Boeing or Nvidia on the table this week is that headline-driven moves don't produce convergence. They produce one thing: social attention, and the system requires that social attention to agree with price action, agree with fundamentals, agree with options flow, and agree with anomaly statistics, all at the same time before it acts. A stock moving because the president shook a hand in Beijing has social attention. It doesn't have the other four things. The system correctly didn't focus on those equities. But first, the bigger story this week. And the reason I want to spend airtime on Boeing this morning is not the 8.5% drop itself. It is what an 8.5% drop in 48 hours on a company that did not do anything wrong can teach every retail investor watching this video. The market doesn't price companies, it prices expectations. And when expectations are 40% higher than reality, the gap closes on the company stock, not on the market's imagination. Boeing did not lose value as a business this week. Boeing stock lost value because the people who had bought it on the hope of a 500 jet order had to sell it on the news of a 200 jet order. That's the entire mechanism. Hope priced in, reality delivered, spread liquidated. We've seen this exact movie before. In April of 2027, then President Trump met with President Xi at Mar-a-Lago. The market spent the months that followed pricing in what was being called the biggest trade deal in modern history. Steel, soybeans, aircraft, everything. And what actually arrived eventually was a tariff war that lasted years. The lesson of that summer was that headline expectations and contract reality are two different markets, and the gap between them is where retail money tends to get hurt. I'm not telling you that the 2026 summit is going to play out that way. The details are different, the players are different, the geopolitical backdrop with Iran is completely different. But what I am telling you is that the pattern of expectations running ahead of contracts is older than the people in that room. And when the system declines to advance Boeing or Nvidia as a signal during a week when both of them were in every single headline, that is the system, BuzzPulse, correctly refusing to bet on the gap. The pipeline did not return zero-ranked names from a broken algorithm. It returned a thin list because it's honest about the difference between a story and a setup. That's the BuzzPulse feature. Now the part of the show I take most seriously, which is the honest accounting of what the system did and did not do this week. I want to be direct about the data in front of me. The proof layer full feed is still being wired into the morning brief, the integration that comes in the next version of the system. What I have on the desk this morning is today's signal in BMNR, two supporting names on the watch list, and the pipeline context for the week. So here's what the system saw, and more importantly, what it did not advance. ON Semiconductor, ticker ON, showed elevated buzz with a surge ratio of 2.54 midweek. The catalyst was a real one, a beat on Q1 earnings and revenue and a doubling of AI data center revenue. The stock then declined 4.1% in after-hours trading on the same day. Real catalyst, negative price reaction, no convergence depth. The system correctly did not advance it. RIOT, the Bitcoin miner RIOT, showed elevated buzz and a surge ratio of 2.24. 68 mentions today versus a baseline of 32.9. But the catalyst, in the pipeline's own words, read as a ticker mention without context or commentary. Options data showed a put-call ratio of 1.42, which leans bearish. The system correctly did not advance it. And TSN, Tyson Foods, TSN, surge ratio of 1.51, very bullish sentiment, and earnings beat with a 3.2% dividend yield and a double bottom technical pattern. No convergence depth to confirm. Watch list material, not signal material. And the broader picture for the week looks like this. Boeing fell 8.5%. Nvidia round tripped. The S&P drifted. The VIX sat at 18.4 and rose 7.2% over 5 days. Volatility is rising slowly, like a clearing of the throat. Not a panic, more like the room going quiet before someone says something difficult. What does an honest scoreboard look like when the BuzzPulse system chose not to play the headline trades? It looks like this. No losing signals this week from confirmed setups. Not because every signal worked, but because the system recognized that it didn't have enough convergence to advance Boeing. It did not have enough convergence to advance Nvidia. It did not have enough convergence to chase the trip and said so clearly by simply not surfacing them. I will take that outcome. The accounts that get damaged on weeks like this are the accounts that chase the headline. The 8.5% that came off Boeing on Thursday and Friday came out of someone's pocket. It did not come out of mine, and it did not come out of yours if you watched this show. The watch list tells you where to look. The greed list tells you where the trap is. BuzzPulse is watching 3 names coming out of this week's pipeline cycle. BMNR, already covered. 8 convergence layers, Z-score of 6.6, unusual options activity, locked at $19.87. The convergence step is the highest the system saw all week. CXAI, price at 14 cents, a Z-score 11.9. That sounds impressive until you read the catalyst, which the pipeline summarizes as a hostile, incoherent post expressing extreme frustration and negative sentiment. Greed score of 0.475. The system is flagging this not because it likes the name, but because something is concentrating social energy around it in a way that looks manufactured. At 14 cents, with that catalyst description, the more likely explanation is the dump pumpers, not a discovery. The system is watching it. I'm not recommending it. And pump a mid-cap equity with a greed score of 0.293, a Z-score of 7.2, momentum not confirmed, but unusual options activity with institutions positioning. A name to track, not a name to chase. Next week is going to be about what does and what does not get signed. The Boeing piece of paper, the oil purchase, the Chinese official summit report readout did not mention, the agricultural commitments, and looming all over it, the $14 billion Taiwan arms package that the president described on Air Force One leaving Beijing as a, quote, very good negotiating chip, unquote. What the system will be watching for is convergence on the names that touch any of those decisions. If Boeing gets a follow-up announcement, the algorithm will see it through buzz, options flow, and momentum at the same time, and that is when the system will have something to say. Until then, it has nothing to say, and I'm not going to pretend otherwise. I'm Ken Carpenter. This is Invest AI Savvy, and that's the way it is.